Welcome back to the Fapo Podcast, where we have conversations about what life looks like when we make the decision to do it with God in the center of it. And it's your girl, Abiola Makonjola. And today in the studio with me, I have Debbie. I came across Debbie's TikTok video about waiting, and it just resonated with me, and I even left a comment on that particular video, and I just wanted to reach out to her. um and even after I reached out to her and doing a little bit of more research, not a little bit more research, and just getting to just catching up with who Debbie is, and just based off of her online presence, I just knew, I was just like, yeah, there was something in sync, because I'm like, there's something about this person. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna have a great conversation. But anywho, I'm gonna leave it to Debbie to introduce herself, tell us who she is, and then we're gonna dive into the conversation. So, Debbie, over to you. Who's Debbie?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me on your podcast. That's super amazing, and I'm really
Oh,
grateful.
thank you for honoring my
Yeah,
invitation.
Debbie. Pardon?
No, no, no. You can go. I said thank you for honoring my
Okay,
invitation.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, of course, of course. So yes, Debbie, I am a 32-year-old teacher. I'm a full-time teacher. I do content creating part-time. I was born in Nigeria, but I moved to Canada when I was one. So Nigerians love to tell me that I'm Canadian. I apparently don't have any Nigerian status, apparently, which I, anyways, I'm Nigerian, okay, guys? I'm Nigerian Canadian. Thank you. But yeah, I love to travel. I've been to about 14 countries. And yeah, I love staying active. I love boxing, playing tennis. Like, I'm just trying to make the most out of life. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
I love it. I love it. You said you're 32. Do you know, I actually thought, like, I'm never gonna lie. I thought you were like maybe just like early 20s. You look like you're in your early 20s. You look real good.
Thank you so
you
much.
look
God is good.
you look really good.
Because
I actually did
when
not.
I look at the clock.
That's why when you said 30, I was like, ooh, 32? Wow. Anywho, I don't even know where to start from, because I told you that I did a little bit of, like, just went through your videos online, and I watched some videos, and it was interesting to find out some things about you. I don't know where to start from. Okay, what is the one thing you want to tell people about Jesus?
Wow. That's a good thing. That's a good question. What's the one thing I would want to tell them to about
Mm-hmm.
Jesus? Um, to consistently stick it out with him.
Mm.
Like if you've made that
Yeah.
decision to give your life to Jesus, or even if you haven't, first of all, that is going to be the best decision you could ever make in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, for those who have made the decision,
Mm-hmm.
stick it out with him, because the devil's going to do whatever he can to take you from God's hands. He doesn't want you to be in relationship with God, or even if you are in relationship with God, he wants to tarnish your God. He wants you to see God in a way that, where you're like, oh, I love God. Yeah, I know God is there for me and he loves me and everything. But you're also kind of like, God, you're not, you're a great disappointer,
Mm-hmm.
which I say this now because in 2022, which I've talked about, was one of the worst years of my life. And I remember saying to God in writing, I'm like, God, you are the great disappointer. All you do is consistently disappoint me.
Wow.
I like all you do is consistently disappoint me. I
Wow.
wrote, um, it was a year of where God was just bringing up all of this muck that was in my heart, um, because I basically had thought I had told myself, I convinced myself that I was supposed to have, be married by this point in time. I was supposed to
Mm-hmm.
have this, I was supposed to have that.
Mm-hmm.
God was revealing things in one of my friendships. At that time, I was living with one of my best friends,
Mm-hmm.
and the way that there was so much issues in that friendship at one point, because God was revealing that we were kind of low key in competition.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had told myself, I convinced myself, because the verse "hope deferred makes the heart sick." I'd convinced myself that I was going to be next. Like, she had broken up with a past relationship, and I had convinced myself, I was like, yeah, God, I'm 1,000% sure I'm next. When I wasn't next, my heart became sick. I remember losing like 10, 15 pounds around that time because
Wow.
I just couldn't fathom that I wasn't me. I was like, God, I've been waiting my whole entire, like I've been waiting my life and like my whole life. And I've never had a boyfriend. I mean,
Mhm.
grade seven, like 1 week boyfriend doesn't count. I've never had a boyfriend. I've dated here and there.
Right.
And sometimes, oh Lord, woo, there's so much to say about that. But I've never had a boyfriend. I've dated here and there. You know, I've had situationships.
Mhm.
I've been abstinent for like 9 years. So in my head, I'm like, okay, God, I think it's time for this to happen now.
Mhm.
And when it didn't happen,
Mhm.
I was so disappointed. God was just using that year to just like bring up so many things that were in my heart. And I was being honest with God. I was like, God, I am struggling with comparison, with jealousy, with envy. I am struggling. I am unhappy. I need you to help me in this. And I remember I would actually record myself on my device, and just talk to God or make like a video diary. And it was, oh man, it was such a dark time. And
Wow.
then as I was getting a little bit better, then one of my brother passes away. It was just terrible. It was such a terrible year. So despite all of that, I you have to still stick it out with Jesus. It may not make sense. Like I even think to myself, I if I don't stick it out with Jesus, I know for sure he's been the one who's been holding me to this point, because from all the things that when I reflect on my life and all the things I've gone through,
Right.
I shouldn't even be a follower. I should be an atheist. I should be so far from God.
Right.
But the way that he's kept me,
Right.
I have to stick it out with him. I have
Right.
to stick it out with him.
Right.
And it requires us taking a very, very genuine look inside. Like, what is the issue that I'm dealing with, and why is it that I am not feeling this joy that I'm supposed to feel in God? Why am I feeling this way?
Right.
Is it God is trying to work something in and through my heart?
Mhm.
Is he trying to heal past wounds, which I've realized there were so many childhood wounds that he was trying to heal?
Mhm.
Um, there's just so many things that God was trying to do. So, I mean, back to your first question, if there's anything I would say, it's for sure stick it out with God, because he will never, ever give up on you.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack there, but man.
Ooh.
There's a lot to unpack, but I can so relate with you. And I don't know if it's the Nigerian in us, or I don't know, but just like you, I had that same pressure. Oh, I want to be married when I'm 25. I want to be this when I'm this. I want to be that when I'm that. And it's like, and it's just, God has such a sense of humor, because He takes that one thing that you're obsessed about, and He just uses it, like He draws you, like He brings you closer to Him, because it's either you do it your way or you wait and let Him do what He has already planned to do. And when you do it your
Yes.
way, you end up messing everything up, that you still come back and you be like,
Hmm.
okay, God, I'm here, I'm sorry, let me just surrender, like there's no point, do you understand? So wow,
Yeah.
there's a lot to
Yeah.
unpack. So like, who was Debbie prior to 2022? Because again, like I said, I watched your testimony video and I was just like, wow, there was a whole person before this person that we see in 2024 who's sharing the word of God, and who's, living for Jesus. So who was that person prior to 2022?
Oh.
How did you come to that point in 2022 where you were just like, God, I'm gonna leave, like I'm gonna do this with you. I'm not doing this on my own anymore.
Wow. Okay, so I would say I grew up in a Christian home.
Mm-hmm.
And now, when I think about it, I grew up in a Christian home. I was definitely, my faith with God was through my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And it was specifically, I would say, because my parents divorced when I was young, it was
Mm-hmm.
specifically through my mom. I
Oh,
love my mom very much, of course. But sometimes our parents' wounds don't heal.
oh,
And
yeah.
I've had to go through therapy to verify things, but the relationship my mom had with us wasn't always the healthiest. I hate to throw these words around, but like my therapist has confirmed, is like my mom had some narcissistic tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
And for somebody who is a empath, or somebody who's very much so a um I can't think of the word now, but I kind of like to make sure everyone feels fine, which means that I can put my feelings aside. I like to make people laugh. I love to bring the positive energy, but I won't always speak up for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up with my mom, it's like she knew that, and it was like she used that to her advantage, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until 2016 where, after just growing up life and everything, where I actually got baptized.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got baptized, one of the things, even with getting baptized, I even still wonder to this day. It's something I wonder. I'm like, was I even still actually saved at that point? I don't want to say that I wasn't, but there was things that I was struggling with that I couldn't let go of, and one of those things was weed. For me, I was addicted. Like, it was something that I was very, very much so addicted to. And it wasn't till the summer of 2022 where God set me free from that. There was other things that God set me free from in 2022 as well. But that was something, after I did therapy, I realized that marijuana was my way of finding joy in the midst of my pain. It was basically whatever I would go to remember, because every time, if you've ever done it, for anyone who's ever done it, it makes you laugh. It makes your problems go away temporarily. You feel happy. You're, especially when you're with friends, the way I would be cackling with friends. I enjoyed it. But then as I got older, I stopped enjoying it because it was having like a negative effect on my body. I would feel tense, I would feel anxious, I'd feel super annoyed. And I knew I didn't like it, but there was this like a chain on me, because if I wasn't doing well, I would go back to that. So yeah, so that was just one of the things I struggled with. It was, I would say honestly, one of the great things God had done was helping me come to terms. I think the year prior in 2021 that I had a lot of childhood trauma that I had to deal with. And when I came to terms with that, then I started going to the church I'm in now. And that, I think that is incredibly important, to be in a church where you are being challenged, you're in good community, where you're feeling loved, because that really helped project me further to where I think I am today. Yeah, that's what I would say. And then 2022 was just a rough year where I think God had to really shake things up for me to actually surrender everything. But it was incredibly frustrating, because it's like, imagine you're just praying consistently every day and you're like, God, help me, and you're not feeling that help. You're not. I was depressed. I would be in my at night crying into my pillow like every night, and I'm like, God, this sucks. At what point? And then it just, things would just get worse. It's like, oh, brother dies. Oh, this other situation. Oh, something else. But when I look back, I see how God used that. I remember even around my brother's funeral, my friend was asking me a question. I can't remember what it was, but I just remember thinking like, well, God works all things for the good of those who love him. And I don't know why I said that, because I didn't feel that way, but that is one of my favorite verses, because I can look back and I can see like, wow, God, that season sucked, but you have truly worked all things, because I'm a more confident person. I know who I am more than I ever have. I had therapy. I've worked through issues and all of that. And I guess now God is working through the waiting, which I suck at waiting. I'm a very impatient person. So I think God is now saying, okay, now we're really going to work on the patience part, the waiting part.
I don't know if any of us are really good at waiting, because we live through life. Well, let me speak for myself. I live through life thinking my life should be a certain way, and of course when it doesn't go
Yes.
that way, I'm like, okay, I keep trying to the point where something hits me, and it's like you realize you're doing the same thing over and over again, and you're getting the same results.
Hmm.
So do you want to do something differently? And especially because as somebody who's working with Christ, it's like, do you want to just let him lead the way, give you instructions, and then you do what he's asked you to do, or do you want to just keep spinning your wheels? So I don't think any of us,
Mm.
to be very honest with you, that waiting is I don't know. It's a training. It's training you to, to continue to just to learn how to work with God and be patient. But golly, it is tough.
It's hard.
It's hard,
Very,
sis. It is hard.
very.
Because you're waiting for something that you think will manifest, or you think that's going to happen. And there's also the possibility that what you think is going to happen is not going to happen. So it's like,
Oh my gosh.
right? So it's like, you are not like, there's also that disappointment, even though at the end of the day, when we look back, we're like, you know what, it all worked out, just like you said, it worked out for my own good. But then, because you're so focused on one particular thing, your mindset is on that thing. When it doesn't happen, it's like that flush of disappointment, and you're like, why did I even wait after wasting my time? All of like, I didn't even guess what it is that I wanted, right? But then it's like,
Yeah.
it's just teaching us, at the end of the day, teaching us to just trust God, lean on God, and walk with
Yeah.
God. And it's such a
Yeah.
delulu state of mind, like a very delusional state of mind, because people look at you like you're really waiting. Okay, keep waiting. But yeah.
I love how you said delulu. I love how you say, because I say delulu all the time. I think to myself, I'm like, I need to be delusional with the Jesus anchored with me. Like I have to. You have to have that kind of faith. If you don't, I'm sorry, but I have crazy dreams. I have delusional dreams, and I'm trusting you, God, to come through on these because I'm inviting you into this. Which, oh, yeah,
You gotta be
oh,
delusional, because if
delulu.
not,
What?
oh my
Delulu is the
god.
Salulu with Jesus at the top, okay? Delulu is the Salulu with Jesus. Come on.
Oh my god. um so if you don't mind talking about it, are you okay talking about what happened with your brother? Is that something that you're okay talking about?
Yeah, yeah,
What
I'm
happened
okay
with
with
your
talking. I
brother?
mean, if I'm not, you'll know.
Is
Sorry?
he your older brother or your younger brother?
He was younger than me. I'm the oldest. I have two younger brothers, so he was the middle one.
Oh, what happened with him? How old was he when he passed?
So that was 2 years ago, and he's 2 years younger than me. So I
Oh
think
wow,
he
so he's 30.
passed. Yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
around then, so that was rough. He passed in his sleep. There may have been some kind of um, potential drug use and whatnot. Um, and it was very very tragic because he was someone I love the kind of personality he has. He's just the kind of person who did not care what anybody thought about him. He was strong-willed. He would go to his school campus, preach the gospel, share the gospel, all of that. But then when the Bible talks about bad friends corrupt good morals, it's true. He just got involved with wrong kind of friendships, and it just led him down a path where he wasn't always making the right decisions. And also, too, he had experienced so much in his own childhood, um, a lot of things in his own childhood as well, so much. Um, but yeah, so to hear like to hear how he sudden just to have the sudden death, like it was just so sudden. It was I actually remember thinking to myself, this is something that God would never do. I was like, that would never happen. Like it's so funny. I remember I was much younger. I was like, oh yeah, God would never take away one of my siblings too soon because like I couldn't handle it. And truly I didn't handle it. I couldn't handle it. But it's funny that because even despite that I couldn't handle it, God still took me through it. And I can say now, like grief is a forever thing, but I know that God has given me this. It's like He healed a lot of the grief. Like He's healed so much of it because it was incredibly painful, especially when I already felt like I was at the rock bottom. So to have that on top of it, I was like, I really can't handle this, God, but yet you're giving this to me. It was very rough, very, very rough. But yeah, despite that, um I don't know, despite that I just learned a lot. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned about a lot about friendships and family. I cherish family so much more now than I ever have. um yeah, that was very very hard time for sure.
How did your mom handle it, losing a child?
Oh man, she was obviously very devastated. Man, in terms of even with that, there's other things that I wouldn't even actually feel too comfortable actually sharing per se, but with her, she definitely was devastated, but there's a part of me that thinks to myself that if she was in a healthier state of mind, he would be alive today. So coming to terms with that was very hard, and I'm grateful I had therapy to work through that, but that was very very hard. I'm confident of that. In fact, I'm confident if she was healthier, he would be alive for sure. um but that was difficult. That was definitely difficult.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, up until 2022, I'm guessing again we don't have to go in depth, but just I'm guessing a lot of whatever, like the grief and the everything that you carry, the pain. Let me just put it that way. A lot of the pain that you carried up until 2022, when you had that huge release, was probably from. Would you say that was from just how you grew up, childhood, and all that stuff?
You mean just like all the things that came up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would guess. I think so, and I think also just like personalities. Like I'm non-confrontational for sure. And just like in friendships, I feel like God was teaching me like you allow a lot of things to slide when you need to speak up for yourself. You need to be assertive in these situations. Um, so yeah, I would say I don't know, there's just so many different things, and of course, just life. Like even just learning about there was periods too of online dating. 2021 was like the year I would say of a lot of online dating, which now I can say for sure is not for
Right,
me.
yeah. Yeah.
Never again.
You bumble crumble or your
So
train change.
oh my, oh Lord, oh Lord, oh my goodness. Yeah, no, it's crazy.
Yeah.
No, these guys out here, they're nah. Anyways, and just learning about myself from that too, online dating and
Yeah.
just all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And like the choice of just being abstinent for as long as I have, because I realize as well, like I have a tender heart. I'm not the kind of person that can just be like, I can't have my time wasted, but I can fall very easily. So it's just I had to make a decision. I was like, I have to honor God with my body and just like honor God in general, but also protect myself. Like this is why God has these stipulations in His Word is to protect us. Um, and yeah, that was really difficult. That was very very difficult and has been difficult because I've gone to get in my head. I'm like, is there something wrong with me though, God? Because like, why has it just never happened? Lots of people, even get like the attention that doesn't always happen to me. And that's doesn't mean that's the case. It's just that it just hasn't happened to me, and for whatever reason. And I think it's God is having me in a season right now where I'm learning to genuinely surrender instead of saying I surrender with my mouth, but to say I surrender with my actions and my heart. Um, so that's I feel like that's where God has got me at finally, and I think that came from just realizing like the video I made about waiting, because I had said to God, I was like, why does your word say that they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength, but yet I'm not feeling like this is a promise in your word, but I'm not feeling that way at all. I'm very frustrated. I'm very tired. Why does your word say that if that's not the case? And he brought me, he's like, yeah, okay, then let's get through it then. And yeah, that was amazing just what he revealed in his word regarding that at that time.
Can you tell us what he revealed? I want you to touch on it, like the way you explained it in that video. Like, I want you to just go in depth because my next question is going to be like, what has that been like waiting, and how long have you been waiting for? Like waiting with Christ intentionally.
Yeah,
How long has that been for?
I would say intentionally waiting with Christ for sure for 9 years.
9 years.
I would say,
Okay.
yeah, nine
Okay.
years intentionally waiting. Um, and in to what he was revealing, I mean, I had shared that, there's ups and downs. There's times where it's like you're good, you're focused, it doesn't bother you, you're enjoying life. And then there's times where you're frustrated, you're sad, you're desiring this, you're desiring companionship and partnership. You see friends get married. I had the summer afterwards, both of my closest friends were getting married, and I was of course very happy for them, but it still makes me like, how about me? But when I was saying to God, like, why is it that I don't feel like my strength is renewed? It was so interesting that the next day, I actually, let me just make sure I have my notes, but the
Yeah.
next day, I was reading a devotional, and it came in the devotional, it was just explaining that verse. It was literally talking about that verse, Isaiah 40, where it's like, they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. And it was explaining, first of all, it was just explaining how wait in Hebrew is kava, and kava is to wait for, be expectant, to hope for. And I was explaining how we all have that kind of feeling when we for me, I love to shop online, so it's like I place an order, I'm waiting, I'm expected, I'm hopeful for it to come. And so like that's kind of how I understood, like, okay, that's what that waiting means. And it's an active waiting because you'll check the tracking, you'll think about how you're gonna put the thing together, the outfit or whatever it is.
Right.
And so I kind of felt encouraged in that time. And then as I kept on researching it the next day, I was researching it, and then I found out that kava has a figurative and a literal meaning. And so the figurative meaning is that expectant, wait, hopeful. But the literal meaning is to bind together like a rope. And that was just so, I was like, what does that mean? What does that have to do with waiting? Um, and as I kept on reading up on it, one of the words that was also like intertwined And so when you replace that word intertwines, like they that intertwine their lives with God shall renew their strength. So when you think about that, I think automatically you kind of think, okay, so that means living my life consistently, inviting God into everything. And that makes so much sense to me because I could see back in my life times where I didn't always do that. I One of the things I shared as well was um, I was going to go back on online dating, even though I know better. And when I almost did, I heard God say so clearly, like, are you going to consult me? And so that is kind of, that's what it means to kava with God. Like, are you not going to consult God and bring him into this decision you want to make that you know is not
Good.
um
Good.
like yo, and I'm guilty. I'm so guilty of just I'm so guilty. When I want something, the way I will go and find a way to get it without consulting God and anything, I'll just go do what I want and just be, oh God, I hope you do this for me. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't do it the way I want, and then I
Yeah.
get frustrated with him. I'm acting like a
Yeah.
child when I'm not a
Yeah.
child anymore. So, like I've
Yeah.
actually moved on from eating baby food. I'm actually supposed to be eating proper food, but yet I'm whining. Like no,
Yeah.
something is not correlating. It's
Yeah.
not correlating at all.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, like just intertwining is like inviting God into everything, like inviting him. And it's not to say that like we don't have the mindset like we can make our own decisions. It's not to be like, do I take a step now or no? Oh, like it's not, that's not what I mean by that. What I mean is that inviting him into everything by just like consulting him, praying with him, being in fellowship with other believers, like just being in a good community, reading your word. Reading our word can be very difficult for a lot of us. Like sometimes, like I feel like in today's age, because we're so consumed with social media, we have a hard time even staying focused. We're so easily distracted. I know I'm very easily distracted, but I feel like that's just part of what the enemy wants. He wants us to be distracted so we don't receive what God has for us. Um, so yeah, those are just the different things. And when I had that deeper understanding, I was like, okay, so God, to kava on you not just means to be hopeful and expectant and waiting on you, but it also means to intertwine my life with you. It means to invite you into everything. It means to be in fellowship with other believers. It means to have conversations. It means to share the gospel. It means to do what we're supposed to do as Christians. And that isn't always easy. Like that can still be, it doesn't mean that it's supposed to be joyful, like, oh, you're never going to feel joyful. No, it means you're going to struggle. It means you're going to have a very hard time at times. But that's part of this. It's part of the endurance that you need to walk out this walk that you have with God. It's part of the journey.
Yeah. Oh my God, you couldn't have said it any better. And even like how you just described that whole kava experience, it makes it even more, I think I'd say, meaningful that when we intertwine our lives with God, we know that something good is going to come out. So even if it looks like what we think it's going to be, or if it looks like what we've never imagined, we know that as long as I have God, as long as I'm doing this with God, it's going to be good for me. So taking our minds
Yeah.
off of what it is that we so want and just focusing on him and just being like, whatever you have for me, just give it to me. I'm ready and I'm open to
Yeah.
receiving it. That's beautiful to
Yeah.
hear. So did you give your life, at what point did you like give your life to Christ? You're like, here I am, fully surrendered to you. When would you say that was for you?
Man, that's a difficult question that I feel like I'm even still trying to figure out, because I would say 2016 when I got baptized, but I was still struggling with, I wouldn't say I was fully surrendered at that time. So I was surrendered in some areas, but not everything. Like that was definitely a time where I was like, yes, Lord, I'm making this decision to be baptized. But everyone's story is not the same though, right? Like just because some people can be radically saved, and some people it's like, yes, I'm saved, but I'm struggling with things. And there was things that I just genuinely struggled with for so long, but it's because it was connected with trauma. And I am such a big advocate of healing from past wounds. Like our wounds hold us back. You
Yes.
cannot fully step in whatever God has for you if you have wounds. And I realize this about myself. I
Yeah.
struggle with believing all the time, like, okay, can I actually do this? Am I actually capable? Because of past wounds.
Yeah.
So I know it's so important to heal from those things, but I would say probably in the last 2 years, last year, I would say I've finally got to a place where I feel like, yes, God, I'm actually fully surrendered to what you have for me.
Mm,
Um, and and yeah, I mean, yeah, I would say then. I mean, I would
yeah.
say saved at 2016, but
2016, right?
fully surrendered now within the last year or two,
Mm, yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I totally share the same sentiments with you because I gave my life to Christ in 2019. However, I felt like that was just the beginning of a different journey. That wasn't just now
Mm,
me involved in the journey. It's now with this I'm co-creating with God. But even though I
yeah.
didn't understand the depth of what that journey looks like, I find it's funny. I was just writing my journal the other day how at different points of my life I'm just surrendering. Like first it was my desire to want to get married. That was like the chokehold that God used to arrest me. That was like, okay girl, we
Mm,
need to figure this out. You're doing the most. So
yeah.
that was the first part. And then now I'm now finding that the next level of surrendering for me is my purpose and my desire to just want to find something that makes money. I just want to make money. I just want to make money. Whether it brings me fulfillment or whether it's fulfilling, whether it's of purpose or whatever the case is, my own is just money, money, money. That when I'm applying for jobs, I'm looking at the numbers. I'm like, oh, 6 figures. I can do this
Mm,
job. Resume sent.
hmm.
Interview. Do you understand? So I find like
Yep.
at just different levels, there's just different things that God uses to just circle me back and just bring me back to the point and be like, this is where we are. You need to focus. You're losing focus. You're getting off guard. So
Hmm.
I don't think there's that.
Wow.
I don't think it happens in one sitting, to be very honest with you. So just yeah, just like you, I feel like it happens at different in different seasons. But yeah, that's beautiful. What is being a UGC creator about? And how did you
Oh
get into that
yeah. So
space?
yeah, so UGC is it means user generated content. So
Mm-hmm.
essentially I create content and I send it to a brand. It's very different from being an influencer. So an
Uh,
influencer has like a lot of followers, they influence their following, while UGC is I create content, I send it to the brand and they use it, they add ads, it's used as an ad. So that's
mm,
and I came across it on TikTok once. Like I've always loved being creative. I've always loved
mm-hmm.
creating content.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just funny. Like I never initially thought of myself as someone who's business minded. I kind of was like, I'll just do the, 9 to 5 work. Like I love teaching and all of that, which I was telling you, I feel like, oh, things are gonna change, I hope. Anyways, across it on TikTok. I did research and I was like, this is something I honestly feel like I can do. So I did as much research as I could, created a portfolio, sent it out to brands. And then yeah, like I started creating content and I've loved it. And it's great because I don't have to have a big following. Like I don't have a big following on my social accounts, but God has honestly opened some amazing doors through UGC. So I'm very grateful
Yeah.
for that.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, because I saw it. I've seen it like a few times, but I've never really like dug into what it is. Then I saw your video about it, and I was like, oh, okay, let me watch the video. And then I went online for the first one. It was like UGC, but I still did not understand the whole idea behind it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna get Debbie to explain it to me, so at least I get a better
Ah,
understanding. I get a
of
better
course.
understanding of it. Yeah. What has what has life been like lately? Just in obviously we know that you're waiting. We know that you're hopeful. We know that whatever it is that you're waiting for. And I think like you said in your like I've come together. Your biggest waiting or what you're waiting for is marriage, right? Finding somebody. So what has life been like? Just knowing what you know now with regards to intertwining your life with God and living your life with God, what has life been like? What's different about how you carry yourself and how you're preparing yourself to be a wife, or how you're preparing yourself to be a wife? Because at the end of the day, the man is going to find you when, like, you're already a wife when he finds you. He doesn't find you
Yep.
and then you become a wife. You're already a wife. So what has that been like? And what are some of the things that I don't know if this has happened to you, but I've come across videos where people will be like, "Oh, these are some of the things that God did for me to prepare to be a wife, or in preparation for me to being a wife." What are some of the things that you find yourself doing now that you used to do? Well, what are some of the things that you used to do before that you're not doing now anymore? What does that look like?
Hmm. I feel like I would say first of all, I feel like that journey is different for many people. I think for one of the things that like God has told me specifically is none of this, constantly just dating around. Like that's just not what he's calling me to do. He's made it very clear I don't need your help. I've tried to help him. I've tried to, play, where it's like I'm not asking no guy out, but when you're just like, God, this guy's cute, and you step, you're in their point of view, and you're just like, God has said, my dear, stop it.
My
Like
dear, stop.
oh no, because and God has been revealing the insecurities because like God has been like, my dear, you're not desperate. Why are you doing this?
Right,
Why are you
right.
doing this? Why are you trying to? Because I was like, God is revealing these insecurities. I'm like, God, no. I'm like, this is not fair, God. This is not fair. It hasn't happened to me. Like, this is like, if you had given me a boyfriend, I would probably be able to tolerate this a lot better. But you haven't. Like, I'm trying to blame him. Like, it's you, God. Like, you haven't done this for me. But God is also like, but you can't handle just me for no reason. And I've always known that. Like, I see someone, and I will know a guy within like 5 minutes. I'm just like, this is a waste of my time. But I entertain it for a moment. I've always known that. So God has made it clear we're not doing none of that. Um, I need to heal the parts of you where you feel like you're still not enough. I need to work on your insecurities because you're not desperate. You know who you are. And so I feel like recently I've just been at a point where I'm finally surrendering this area as well. I think I've pretended like I've surrendered it, but now I'm finally surrendering it. And that's been kind of challenging because I think we all have a timeline. I'm like, God, I'm turning 33 in 2 months. I'm like, Lord, I don't want to be 35 and I'm still single. But like, what if that's God's plan? What
Right,
if that's God's plan? What
right,
am I supposed to do? Like, am I going to literally stop serving him? Am I going to go around the exact same mountain because I don't get what I want? I'm going to be whining and then stomping my feet around the same mountain again. I'm actually past that. Um, I think God is calling me to. I think He's calling me to help other women like me. I think, um, and that's affirmed in different ways. But like, I feel like at this point in time, it's like being present in the communities I'm in, helping other younger women, helping other women like me, helping women to heal from past wounds, um, and just waiting and trusting God. Really doing that because I have this faith. I do have this delusional, not even delusional, I just have this faith that I know in due time when it happens is going to happen. And God is
yes,
so strategic. Like I have these dreams and I'm like, God, you can do anything. So let God do what he does best.
yes,
Let me put myself in his word and then let me allow God to use me in the way that he can. And that's
yes,
big because I've struggled with thinking I could be used. I'm like, I'm not very good at staying on point or speaking the way I need to speak or whatever it is, but God obviously sees so much more in me than I see in
yeah,
myself. So
yeah,
let me allow God to do what he does best
yeah,
in my life.
yeah, yeah.
And I think that's where I'm at now. And I can say I mean, of course, I've had points where I've been content before, but I feel like I have a sturdier foundation of contentment now where,
That's good.
yes, I'm allowed to be disappointed. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be disappointed. And
Yes,
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 I may still pray, God, by 34, Lord, by 30, I can still pray those prayers. But even if he doesn't do it the way I want him to do it, am I going to still be pouting and being a whiny brat? No. I'm going to trust that he actually has it under control. Because what's the point of us saying that we trust God, but we don't, like, the God who created the universe, the God who put the world into motion, everything, like the capacity of understanding even how the universe is? How can I really and truly not actually believe that if he did that, he doesn't have me? That doesn't make sense. And I've seen the evidence of other people's lives. I've seen how God has moved in other people's lives. So to think that he wouldn't do that for me when I know he loves me, and I know he loves you and he loves all of us,
yeah,
it's our disobedience. It's our disobedience or being brats. And I can't be a brat anymore. I really can't. Like, he's calling all of us higher. So I think I'm at a
yes,
place where the foundation is better now. The foundation is better. And if I forget, I'll come back to the videos I make and remind myself. I'll go back to my journal entries. I'll go back to all of those things. I'll go back to those friendships, those godly friendships, and have God remind me through that. Um, so yeah, I think that's where I'm at. I'm at a place where I'm going to enjoy my life. I'm not going to be looking at any fine boy that comes into church. I'm going to be focused. I'm going to be focused. No, yo, I God, this guy is pretty cute, God.
Oh, Jesus.
You know, what?
Yeah,
We need to
yeah.
stop this because I can never be like, God told me this person is my spouse. Like, I think that is whenever someone honestly says that, I'm like, until it's fulfilled, that could have been your whole entire mind. That could have been all
Yeah.
you until it's
Yeah.
fulfilled. But you talk to God like, God, this guy is fine. And I feel like God is sometimes just like, yeah, but he's not fine for you. So, we're moving from that.
But he's
And
not
then
fine
I'm
for
like,
you. I love
he's
it.
not fine for you.
Yeah. I love
Okay,
it.
and
I
then
love
you're
it.
still like, I'm still like, okay, God, but like just a little bit of attention. And it's like, why do you want attention, Deb? Why? Let's deal with that. And God just puts on his glasses. So, why do you want that man's attention? What is it? And it's like,
Mm,
wow, well, because God, I have these insecurities, I
mm,
grew up in a small town, dark skinned girl, all of this. And he's like, yeah, I get it. But we're gonna have to heal from that now. It's
mm,
like, okay, word. All right, Lord.
mm. Yeah. Wow. I'm learning that God is so intentional. And the more that I read the Bible, I'm like, you created every single dang on thing that you created with purpose. Like, there's no one reason why one thing doesn't exist. Everything was
Yeah,
done with intentionality. And I think for me, that
facts.
just, when I think about it, like you said, I can't fathom like the whole creation of the world because sometimes I'm looking at stuff and I'm like, why does this even exist? Like, we don't even need it. But the person who created it or the being who created it knew the reason why it exists. Maybe it might not exist for my own purpose or in my own life, but it exists for somebody else. So I'm just, yeah,
Exactly.
God is intentional. It blows my mind. What's your favorite verse of the Bible?
Definitely Romans 8:28 and Psalm 40:1 to 3. And I love I think Psalm 41 to 3 is probably my first favorite. It's like my anchor verse.
What is it?
Yeah.
What is I know Romans 8:28
Um,
is every all things work together for good to them that love thee, right? Okay, what's
yes,
Psalms
exactly.
one? What's Psalms? What's the
Um,
Psalms one?
so Psalm 40:1 to 3 is, I waited patiently for the Lord and he heard my cry. He took me out of the pit of destruction. He set my feet on solid ground. He gave me a new song to sing. Many will see what he has done and be amazed and put his hope and trust in God. And that was the verse that God had given me in my terrible year of 2022. And it was as if every line was, this is where you're at right now. I heard your cry. I was like, okay, I'm taking you out of this pit now. Okay, now I'm helping you walk along. And there's times I wasn't walking. He was carrying me on his back. Now it's like I'm giving you a new song to sing, and I had it all written down. I see where he gave me a new song to sing. And then I feel like now I'm in the place where I'm like, many will see what you've done, God, and be amazed and put their hope and trust in you. And I think that's just so, we are going to be blessed to be a blessing to other people.
Yeah.
And God, it's for our good, but for his glory. And I think that
Yes.
it anchors my faith because I'm like, I know, God, you're going to do something amazing then because you've already done so much that's amazing. Like, just to share this testimony right now, it's going to help at least one person. So it's for his good. And I know you're going to do so much more. So I just love that verse because it was a verse he gave me to just anchor me in him and see how he was carrying me through a very rough season. And now I know that many are going to be amazed by what he's done and put their hope and trust in him. So yeah, I love that.
Wow, that's beautiful. So what's next for Debbie? I know you're teaching right now, and I know we had a brief conversation
Mhm.
about how you're now like, I don't know if teaching is for me. But what's
Oh
next for
man.
you?
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna continue teaching because I mean, I do enjoy it. There's a part of me that still enjoys it, but I would love to just take on content creating full time. Um, but yeah, hopefully this summer just to travel and just rest because the year gets busy. Like when I'm working full time, teaching, content creating, being involved in church here and there, it's just busy. So I look forward to the summer where I can rest, I can travel, and just kind of really get into the creativity that I love doing. So that's my that's I think the goals for the next couple of months for now.
Yeah. So teaching is not even full time.
No, it is full time.
Oh, it's full time.
It is full time.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Okay.
yeah, yeah. It's full time.
So just, I mean, we've had such a good conversation, just, about your experience with God and just how He brought you out of the pit you were in and how, like, your view and everything with life and working with Him has changed. So if there's somebody out there who's listening to this, there's a lady out there, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that one of the reasons why you're doing what you do is because there might be somebody out there who might have gone through a similar journey as you, or who just needs to hear your testimony, or just needs to hear what it is that you have to say. If there's somebody out there who's listening to that, what would you say to them in this moment? What would be your message to them?
Oh man, be aware of the devil's schemes. Be aware of how badly he wants you to harden your heart against God. Be very aware of that.
Yeah.
Because when you're aware of what he's trying to do and how he's trying to separate you from God's love, he will start to succeed little by little of separating you from his love. And not because God is separating himself. You can remove yourself out of God's love and his protection. So be very aware of his schemes and know how good God is. Like, it's so, we say it all the time, but just know, like, he genuinely has this deep love for you. And sometimes that, like, we have to be very honest with ourselves. Like, also be honest with yourself. There are things that sometimes God may not do it, but if he is as good as he's called himself to be in his word and how he's revealed himself to be, we need to put our trust that he has good intentions for us. Not just good intentions, that he has incredible plans for us.
Yeah.
So be aware of the enemy's schemes and his plans, but be more aware of God's bigger and better plans for your life.
That's good. So just before we wrap up, I just wanted you to say a word of prayer. Just pray. I usually get my guests to pray at the end of every recording or every episode before we wrap up. So if you don't mind, let's pray so we
Yeah,
can
of
close out
course.
the episode.
Absolutely. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you so much for just having this opportunity to share my testimony on Abiola's platform. And I just pray, God, for those people, the men or women who hear this, to know, God, that we have gone through things, but you work out all of those things for your glory, God. And I just pray that you heal the hearts and wounds of your people so that we can walk in the authority you've given us, that we can walk in our and the plans you have for us, so we can be confident in those plans, God. I pray you heal the hearts. I pray, Father God, that you help people to trust in you and have some delusional faith in your plans for our life and to keep our eyes focused on you, God. I pray, Lord, that you help us to kava with you, to be hopeful, to be expectant, but to also most importantly, to intertwine our life with you, God, because without you, this life is genuinely purposeless. So, God, I just thank you for your love over us, and I just pray for your continual covering and blessing over us. In Jesus' name.
Amen. 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 Is there anything else you'd like to share? Anything that I haven't covered? Anything that's on your mind that you want to put out there before we wrap up?
No, just again, thank you so much. Like, it was lovely. It was so lovely talking
Yeah.
with you. So I really appreciate
Yeah.
that.
No, thank you. I appreciate you coming on and saying yes. And it's kind of weird sometimes when you just message people out of the blues on TikTok. And I always have to be like, I'm a human being. I promise I'm not stalking you. I'm very, very real. But I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. And yeah, thank you.
Of course.